I wanted to pick up just to review a little bit about where we've been. We spent the last couple weeks or couple sessions talking about splitting. And Michi has a number of proverbs related to splitting. And so what I've been suggesting is to consolidate those. And basically to say anytime that you are thinking about splitting, that you should check or know these rules and kind of check off whether you are violating any of the splitting rules. So we had the signs to split or signs to not split, which is opponents had 10 checkers in the zone, or which is one component of what Michi says. And his proverb was never split facing a blitzing structure, which consisted of 10 checkers in the zone and a stacked position, usually either the 6 or the 8. And so I was kind of suggesting that, well, 10 checkers in the zone is enough to make you think twice. And if you also have the blitzing position with the stacked points, that you should probably think a third time if you want to split against that. And probably you shouldn't. And then there are what I call signs to split, which you have one I called back checkers are well blocked. And Michi called it split against a prime. He has kind of a different definition of prime than we're used to thinking of. But in any case, basically well blocked means that if the opponent has made the bar point, as well as has the 8 and the 6, then you're well blocked. You're blocked with 5s and 6s. And that's also a prime. So I think we're talking mostly about the same thing there for the most part. The other two things to look at, Michi makes a specific proverb about splitting against a stripped 8 point. I didn't find that useful. I think that helps. But I pointed out that, if your opponent opens with a 6-4, then you really shouldn't split. So, and Michi didn't really talk about that one. So I think that's kind of a secondary concern. The other big sign to split is if your opponent has attained an advanced anchor, then you really need to split. And I agree with that one. I also add that even if your opponent has split his back checkers, it's time for you to start thinking about putting a little more emphasis on splitting. And we didn't talk a whole lot about that, but this is kind of a precursor to the 3 is kind of a precursor to your opponent's to split as opposed to making the advanced anchor. It still suggests that you should work on splitting. So now there is one proverb here that, and we'll go over this today and then review some of the splitting rules. So there's one proverb here that Michi talked about, and it didn't quite make my list for splitting rules. And he calls it the hit and split. And so I'm going to tell you what he means by that. And I'll tell you why I don't think, I would not have included this as a proverb, but he has a point, and so we'll talk about what it is. And then I will, as far as we get into that, we'll spend the rest of the time going over just reviewing some more, trying to consolidate all the splitting rules by just looking at some positions and seeing what you think we should do, split or not. Okay, so hit and split. Now, first of all, let me show you what Michi was not talking about. I think that's easier because of the just the words make sense. Hit and split. Obviously, if you can hit your opponent, that puts him on the bar, and it allows you to split your back checkers with far less likelihood of being pointed on, or and if you are attacked with the back from if you are attacked with your checkers, at least your opponent can't. It's going to leave you a return shot. So, for instance, 6-3. This I would think of as hit and split. So what's the right play? Somebody.
7, 24, 21.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to hit. And this, this goes to, and maybe, I put in proverb 0, which is hit. So yeah, you have the opportunity to hit, so you hit. And you almost always hit the bar point when you roll the 6 in a situation like this. And so, yeah, in this case, splitting the back checker is right. And so that's what I would think of as a hit and split. But that's not what Michi is talking about. Michi is talking about specifically in this position. He is talking about, well, I'll put it up there. He is talking about hitting off the ace point with a 5. And so in this case, this is the right move. He doesn't go into a great deal of talking about why, because it violates some of the other principles, the other proverbs that he's talking about. So, you're attacking off the ace point, which is a point that you don't want. And remember, we had the weak tiger, where you hit 2 and you didn't really want to do the weak tiger unless you had 10 checkers in the zone, because attacking with 10 checkers is strong, attacking with 8 checkers is weak. So you're doing a weak attack here with only 8 checkers in the zone, and you're also putting, the weak. If you were hitting 2, it would be a weak tiger, or the weak tiger? I forgot what it is. Because you're putting a checker where you don't want, so you're violating some other principles there. So why are you doing it? The answer, well, the real answer is that this is not a very good roll, and there's not much you could do with it. I mean, your alternatives are, this one is the second best one, to come down and put your checker up here. But, you're putting your checkers, this one in direct line of 3, of 3 builders, which is not, not really what you want to do. And so that sort of, that's the general. So this is what I've heard what other people have called this move is more of what's called a tempo hit. And the tempo hit is where you hit, you're going to hit your opponent basically because he's got the possibility of making good points if you give him full rolls. So if you don't hit him, regardless of where you move, he's got 6-1, 6-3, 3-1 to make the 5 point. He's got 6-1 to make this point. He's got a lot of rolls that make good points. If you put him on the bar, then he can't make those points. And even if you get hit, all right, you go back, but there's no real, that's not good, but it's not terrible because he doesn't have a board. Okay, so
Gary.
Yeah.
This is Richard. I have a quick question. On that 6-3, if Black doesn't have a checker on his 11 point, would you still split or would you bring one down?
You mean the 14 point?
Yeah, well, 14. His 11, your 14.
I think it was a 6-3. Well, so where would it be?
Well, you'd still hit with the 6, but yes, by splitting, you put a little bit more pressure on that 14 point. If that 14 point isn't there, do you still split or do you bring one down?
Well, it depends on where it was. I mean, if it were here, first of all, you wouldn't see this because that would be a 6-5 and everyone's going to go, is going to run. So 6-4.
No, I'm talking about the 6-3.
No, I understand that, but what you're telling me is that if you move the checker from here, so I'm saying, well, where does this checker go?
Oh,
I mean, if you put it here, well, let's look at it. If you put it there,
so
I think this is still a split.
5-1.
I'm sorry.
So he came out with it. So you still split.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay. All right. So, okay, so this is the hit and split, and this is the example that Michi gives. And he only gives one example 2. Here's a variation. So this is the type of thing that I find confusing with what it is. So my question, and so if we look at, what's the answer here? This is not a hit and split, but it seems to have all the same criteria as the previous example. So there's no explanation why, and I'm not really sure why it's better in the other case than in this case. It seems like we have the same things that we'll worry about.
He said in it.
Sorry.
He said in his book that he wants you to prevent making the 7 point, but I don't know why you wouldn't want to prevent her from making the 5 point as valuable.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the type of thing that I don't really understand. Now, here's another position. And so this is a 6-4 opening for black. The other was a 6-2 opening. And in this case, we have the same situation. And this is the hit and split case as well. Now, typically, Michi gets into later in his book why this point, the 16 point, well here, and it's 9 on the other side, why this is an important point, and he calls this the best builder to make, for the prime. And so the idea is that this is such a strong position that you want to disrupt your opponent, because almost any roll from here makes a good point. So, it's a strong roll, so you want to disrupt it. But again, let's look at a variation of this. Here, as before, you don't do the hit here. And I suppose that you might say, well, here the 4s are duplicated, and maybe that's it. So if we move this now, if your opponent gets a 4, he can make the hit, or he can make the 5 point, or he can hit you. Or same if he gets a 3-1, maybe that's the idea. Make that your opponent's roll is less valuable. But that's kind of hard. He's put this in the beginner section of his book, and that's this is really hard to see. And I'm looking at opening couple rolls, and what I can tell you is that if you memorize these, you probably, if you want to know this, I would just memorize these. This position and a 5, 5 something is appropriate to do the hit. Or this position.
So Gary, if you were playing in a match, you'd hit loose on the 1 point?
Well, if I remembered this position.
I understand that, but intuitively, it makes no sense.
The only time that I would consider hitting on the 1 point is one, I couldn't find anything better to do. So for instance, a 5-3. Okay, 5-3, we're going to make the point. I'm sorry, no, we're going to hit here. Okay, obviously, if it were here, you're going to make the point. And look at this one. This is even, or even this one. I would always make the point. 5-2. I don't think this is a hit and split. I think this is, well, it is. You can hit and split here, or make this, but they're about the same. Let's look at 5-4. 5-5, obviously you're going to come 2 down and 2 in. 6-5, you're going to run. Or actually, no, you're going to hit twice. Here. So in general, the only thing that I could say with this is that you should think about the hit and split when you've got 2 checkers in the outfield, that 2 loose checkers, and that your opponent is going to do something constructive if you don't hit him. Because even if, in this case, whatever he does, he can't cover both blots, and he has no board, so you can come right in and have a chance of hitting him. I think, well, let's see. There was one example I found that I didn't save it. 4-1, I guess. I think this is another hit and split. Yeah, this is another hit and split. But again, and if you don't remember this one, you use the normal play, you're just fine. So, I would look at the only time I consider the hit and split is if this checker is here as a blot, and so you want to disrupt this play because it's a strong position for black to make the next point. Virtually all those rolls are good. Or if you have two out here, typically there, probably this one. Oh no, this one is a direct hit, so that's not going to matter. Or that one where you've got two checkers, and now you're going to disrupt his play. So really, that's only 3 or 4 rolls where this comes into play. So, if you want to remember it, that's fine. If you want to forget it, you're not making too big of errors if you don't do this. And the risk you have is doing it incorrectly, thinking you have a good hit and split when you don't. So I would be careful about trying to apply this, because often when I think, hey, this looks like a good hit and split to me, it turns out to be a big error. So I would say, it's in Michi's book, so we'll talk about it, but this was not the most useful thing he wrote about, and I would focus on some of the other things. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say about that. It's there, we discussed it. I wanted to go spend the next 10 minutes or so just reviewing all the splitting rules. So I've got some examples or some things here. Okay, so split or not, and why? Let me put the splitting rules. I use my splitting rules just so they can both fit on the screen. Who has some suggestions?
I would say split for 2 reasons. One is that there's only 8 checkers in the zone. And the other is that his 8-point is stripped.
Yeah.
He also has an advanced anchor.
Yeah. So if we go through this, and this actually conforms to more Michi rules, but we would say, so in the plays you would look at, you could bring 2 down, you could run, you could bring 1 down and split. Those are pretty much the 3 plays that you would think about. I mean, obviously there are more plays, but they're clearly wrong. So you would look at it and say, okay, does the opponent have 10 or more checkers in the zone? No. Is he stripped or is he stacked? Not really. I mean, this is sort of stacked, but not really. So the sign, move this over. There we go. So there's no sign not to split here. Then you go to signs 2. So is the back checkers well blocked? No. Opponent has an advanced anchor. No, he doesn't. Has the opponent split? No. Stripped 8-point. Oh, well, he does have the stripped 8-point. That's probably a good sign to split. So it's a good time to split. The other idea too here is that black is threatening something. He's made the 4-point. Now, if he makes the 5-point, you could have, you're in trouble. You have problems because then he has a very strong board. So let's look at the order here. And the split is the best move. 2 down is second best. And then running is 3rd. And anything else is pretty much leaves blots and is kind of dumb. And you would never do that. Okay. So good. What was another one? Okay, so this is a pretty standard position. What's the right move and why? And again, I like to emphasize too, when you're coming off the bar and you roll a 1, you generally are going to have a decision whether to split or not. And so keep that in mind if you're coming out of the bar. And once again, I'll put the rules over here.
I'm still split. I mean, he's got 9 checkers in. He's starting to prime.
Yeah, so let's go. Yeah, and that's right. We'll look at it, and we'll see why. So, anytime you get double 1s, and you have 6 on the 6 point, it's almost automatic that you have to make the 5 point. So, and for reasons we discussed, the 5 point is the strongest point, and you have the chance to make it. So, you really have to make it. But then, so you're going to come in 1. And then you're going to make the 5 point. And so then the question is, well, what's your best, what's your next 1? And so, well, you could split. So let's look at the splitting rules. Signs not to split, 10 or more checkers in the zone. Well, he's got 9, so there's no sign not to split. There is this stacked 8 point, but there's only 9 checkers. So that's a, kind of a weak sign at best. Are the back checkers well blocked? Well, yes, they are. Michi calls that a priming structure, but that means that you can't get out with a 5 or 6, and so they're blocked, and you need to. That's a strong sign for you to move a checker so that you can get it out, or make the advanced anchor. Opponent doesn't have the advanced anchor, so that doesn't matter. Opponent has split his back checkers. That's not true. That doesn't matter. Stripped 8 point, I don't think is that. It's a little bit, it's some importance here, because if you do strip it, or if you do come out and your opponent wants to hit you at some point, he's going to break a point. And again, that goes back to, place your blots in front of strip point so that he breaks his point. But that's not the major consideration. The major consideration here is that you're well blocked, and you need to step up to get that, either to get that advanced anchor or to give yourself another chance to run.
Okay. What was the second best? Because we were just talking about the 9 point as being the best builder.
The second point, is making the 9 point, because this is a good point for making, making the 4 point or the 3 point or the bar point. So. So that's why that one is the better one. It's the second best one, but still splitting is right here. Okay. So a variation of this. All right, so now we've changed this a little bit.
I bet you this one is you'd go to 9 point. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah, and the guy, he's got a lot of builders there.
Yeah. Okay. And why is that? Let me pull the rules back up.
10 checkers. Although he split his back. I'd still do 10-9 versus splitting.
I don't think your checker on the 23 point is under much risk if you do split.
Yeah. Here you've got, okay, so let's look at the answer. This, well, we've got now 15 checkers in the zone. I'm sorry, 10 checkers in the zone. So now you've got assigned to split. You're sort of a blitzing structure. That would sort of tell you not to. And your players are not well blocked. Opponent has an advanced, does not have an advanced anchor. So the rules here would tell you that that you would not split, that suggested you shouldn't split. Now it turns out that in this case, look at it, splitting is now, well, it's splitting, it actually is the top one. Let's see if it comes out plus plus. But it's closer. So I mean, not that much, so if you didn't split on this, you know, you're based on the rules, you're closer. Keep in mind, and the reason I show this example, which sort of seems to contradict some of the rules, is that the rules are general guidelines, and they're not hard and fast rules, so, but they should give you to think about it. You know, they should make you think about it. And particularly this one, this is a fairly strong rule not to split, where the opponent has 10 checkers in the zone and the blitzing structure with the stack 6, but it's still right. And part of this is your opponent has split too. So,
but also, Gary,
yeah,
isn't another argument to split there is that in that blitzing, not only is it a blitzing structure, but he's got checkers on the 14 and the 16. And if you don't, he's probably going to make the bar.
Yeah. Yeah, he's likely to make the bar. And also, if he does attack you here, he's attacking you deep. Let's see if this matters. If we, you know. Not really. Not really. Okay. So let's look at another one. Okay, so
I would say don't split.
Okay, so don't split, and why?
Again, 10 checkers. He's got an advanced anchor, but he hasn't split either.
Yeah. Well, okay. Who? Didn't see who's talking.
That was John.
Sure. Okay. Black does not have an advanced anchor. This is not an advanced anchor. This is the point. So
okay,
there's no advanced anchor here. But so yeah, the rules. 10 checkers in the zone, yes. Also the blitzing structure, stacked 8 point. Okay, this means that basically Black's only game plan here is to attack because he's not likely to get, you know, a prime here. So that's a sign, pretty strong sign not to split. Black, we're not well blocked here. The bar point is open, so it's the 5 point. Opponent does not have an advanced anchor, so that doesn't matter. Opponent has not split his back checker, that doesn't matter. It has not stripped his 8 point. So we have a fairly strong, but so we had the one sign that says don't split, and it's a fairly strong one. 10 checkers in the zone and a blitzing structure. Okay, so the right answer is come down 13.5. You don't split with the 1 or the 3. The best splitting is with the 1, but that's a blunder to do that. I would say, let me look at this position. there was a point that I wanted to make. Yeah, okay. From the other one. Here you've got 10 checkers in the zone, but you don't have the blitzing structure. And so, it's not as bad to split here. And I think in the other example, we sort of had the same thing. It's not as bad to split here with 10 in the zone. Again, and that's the blitzing structure, but it's still not the best play. Okay. Probably didn't get that as well. Let's do this one. So, what's the answer here? And how does the splitting rules help us?
13-8-6-5.
Okay, and why, Charlie?
Because there's 10 checkers in the zone on your opponent's zone. And he's only got one checker in your home board, so you want to try to keep him there and fight for that 5 point.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. Actually, we'll cover that. Michi has a later chapter coming up we'll cover in a little bit, which is, look to slot your 5 point, basically is what the chapter is about. And in this case, that's the correct move. But you could work this out just by the splitting rules. Your opponent has 10 checkers in the zone, and this is a very, very big blitzing structure. So he's stacked on the 8 and on the 6. And so that should tell you not to split. And so you're going to come down with a 5. And then the question is the 1, do you do 8-7, split, or 6-5? And so, fighting for the good point or tells you 6-5, or that's not really fighting for it, but it's sliding it. But you've got to decide not to split. The sliding will go over as to why that's better at a later time, but you need to get used to the idea that throwing this checker out, even though it gives your opponent a direct shot, is a good idea. And in this case, we are trying to contain this back checker. And so, we need to get the prime going. And we didn't get it. We couldn't build. We could build on this end or this end, and we couldn't build on this end. So we might as well start it here. But for today's lesson, it's okay. You have a big sign to not split here, so don't split, and look for the other play. And if hopefully we'll go into why this one is better. But even if you did this one, it's still not a blunder. All right, let's do.
It seems like, I know I'm always reluctant to go 6-5, but here he's got a lot of good 4s. So 4-1, 6-4, 4-2, double 4s are all good numbers for him. So yes, he'll hit you if he gets a 4. But if you don't slot it, he still has lots of good things to do with 4s.
Yeah, well, that's part of it as well. Michi does not talk about knocking out your opponent's good rolls that much, although I guess we sort of did with the, or just sort of was hinting at it with the hit and split, but that's the other idea too. And the other thing is, if you've got, black has no board, so if we do get hit, it's not the end of the world. and we can come in and make an advanced anchor. You know, and you know, he's got the blitzing structure is kind of an inflexible structure because of the stacks. So you know, getting hit here is not, you know, not terrible. We'd rather not. We'd rather him miss, and then we can make the 5 point, giving us the 4 prime. But again, it's not so bad. All right, let's do one last one, and then we'll get to the chouette. Okay.
I don't know. I'd split just because he's beginning a priming structure. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of ammunition down there, but he's only got 8 checkers. But I'd like to use that 3.
Well, yeah. If you look at the splitting rules, 10 checkers in the zone, no. Stack points, no stack points. So there's no sign not to split.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's a good idea, but there's no reason to not. Checkers are well blocked. Well, yeah, they're pretty well blocked here. You know, 4, 5, and 6. If you don't move these checkers soon, black is going to bring some checkers down to attack you with. He's also has the stronger board, 3-point board, including the better 5-point. You know, you got the opportunity in this position. If you have the opportunity to move, you better move. And you know, in this case, this is a very strong sign. Back checkers being well blocked, or as Michi said, he's got the priming structure going, and this is a pretty strong priming structure. Again, and so the opponent does not have an advanced anchor. That doesn't matter. Opponent hasn't split. Here, the stripped 8 point doesn't matter. The opponent doesn't have an 8 point, but so let's look at that. And this will, this type of situation you need to recognize because it's a huge blunder. If you don't split into this, it's a huge blunder. Actually, yeah, you want to split here because now you put yourself in direct line of a stacked point. And which is not what you want, because you really want to either make that anchor or escape that back checker, free and clear. But you actually, at this point, you prefer to make the anchor, given his position. Okay. All right. So we're at 8:40. I guess that's enough for the lesson. I guess we're ready to start the chouette for whoever wants to play.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.
Sure. Who do we have?
Gary.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gary.
Sure.
Thank you, Gary.
It's Charlie. On that first example that you did, if you wrote the very first one that you did in this class,
yeah.
If you rolled a 5-1, would you do a double tiger?
Oh, here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is one of was one of Michi's examples, and the proverb he put on is the proverb that matters here. He broke it into 2 proverbs: attacking with 8 checkers is weak, and attacking with 10 checkers is wrong. So the answer is there's only 8 checkers in, so you don't attack with 8 checkers because it's weak. And so the answer is you bring one down and hit there. So you hit, but you don't do the tiger play. Now, if you had, I don't know, this, I'm not sure about that. That might be a tiger play. You got 10 checkers in the zone. The opponent has no board. I'm not sure I would, but okay. But it would be right if I did. But again, 10 checkers in the zone is strong. 8 is weak. This one is 9. Now I get, it's probably more of a toss up. Yeah. These basically, you know, there's not much difference between these two.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, so that, you know, directly applies to that proverb.